former Supreme Court justice is now stepping into the national debate over gun control. John Paul Stevens retired from the high court in 2010. He's just written an op-ed in the New York Times about the protests sweeping the country. He suggests the demonstrators should seek more effective and more lasting reform. He said they should demand a repeal of the Second Amendment. That simple but dramatic action would move Saturday's marchers closer to their objective than any other possible reform. It would eliminate the only legal rule that protects sellers of firearms in the United States. Back in 2014, Stevens said legislative bodies should rule on gun regulations, not the courts.
The effect of the Second Amendment, as it's now construed, is to make federal judges the final arbiters of gun policy, which is quite wrong, I think, and quite contrary to what the framers intended when they drafted the Second Amendment.
All right, Greg, so a powerful statement, because this is someone who was actually making determinations, constitutional assessments, whether laws were valid, upheld, what was comporting with the law, and he's saying, listen, they should actually go to repeal this.
Clearly, he's delusional. But this is a really good example, and when you combine them with some of the more strident extremists from Saturday, there were a few speakers there, this is the kind of commentary, say by judges, celebrities, or activists, that validates the other side, the fear of American law-abiding gun owners. So let's say you say, like, you're a common sense person, and you go, those bump stocks, we don't need them. Those should be banned. And the gun control people say, yeah, you're right. No, just bump stocks. And then you go and you ban bump stocks, and then they say, that's not enough, actually. We want all your guns. And we're the law-abiding gun owner. We're going like, we're being told we're paranoid, that we're somehow seeing things or hearing things. We just saw things and we just heard things. They are validating exactly the fears. These are things that the more you say that, the more you guarantee guns will never go away. In fact, the amount of them will multiply every day.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dana.
Well, and it wasn't like it was on some crank website. This was in the paper of record. It was in the New York Times. And no time like the present for Republican candidates facing a tough challenge or in the midterms to be able to say, well, do you, Mr. Democrat or Miss Democrat, agree with John Paul Stevens that we should repeal the Second Amendment? And then it puts the Democrats in a position of having to say, well, no, I don't, and it will be a problem for them.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm making a bright line rule on determination, but it's very sketchy territory because it's constitutional rights in the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, and now you have a former Supreme Court justice saying to call for the repeal of it. Pretty strident.
Well, there'll be a civil war if you take away the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine the armed people coming to gun owners' homes, knocking on the door and say, surrender your weapons now or else? I mean, it'd be an absolute bloodbath. And then what are you going to do? You're going to give all of your weapons away and then only the bad guys are going to have guns? I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's going to be a crime spree across the country. Or you give up all your weapons and then the police, the military, and President Donald Trump has all the power.
Exactly.
Is that what liberals really want? So to echo Greg's point, which was really well said, this is why people get nervous. And it's refreshing to hear Democrats tell the truth.
Yeah.
But this is a slippery slope argument, and it makes people join the NRA because you want to protect and expand your freedoms. You don't want to restrict them. I would say it's the hardest thing to do in this country. You have to have, 2/3 majorities of the House and Senate, and then you have to have 3/4 of the states, which I think is 38 states or something like that. It will never, ever happen. And to your point, red state Democrat senators, they don't want to read this in the New York Times.
They're already disavowing it.
Juanito.
Well, I'm interested in hearing that you guys somehow connected with this Republican, John Paul Stevens, a Republican, who was put on the court by a Republican president. You're now connecting that to Democrats, and you're saying also, this is connected to those terrible young people who are trying to act rationally. No, but the young people had an agenda, and it was not this. The agenda they had was fund gun control, gun violence research, strengthen the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, universal background checks, limit on sale of high-capacity magazine, and a ban on assault weapons. So what you have there is what the young people did. But now I see that the right is so delighted by their Republican former member of the Supreme Court's writings that they're trying to then somehow damage the young people by throwing this. I guess it's
one's trying to damage the young people.
Remember when
I didn't listen to Greg's point. If you're going to say let's ban AR-15 rifles, that is a slippery slope when you know what the true intention of the gun-grabbing liberal agenda is.
That is not, but let me just tell you, I don't think this is the act. We have written right in front of me the actual agenda of the people who marched on Saturday. This is not part of that agenda.
Because they're hiding their true agenda. I bet if you went out and told those marchers, and they say repeal Second Amendment, I'd say a majority would want it.
Let me just tell you something. I am someone who thinks it was a mistake, a total mistake by Justice Scalia to say, oh yeah, what the founders intended was for everybody to have a gun. What you're hearing from Justice Stevens, again, a Republican appointed and put on the court by a Republican, is this is a matter of an archaic law that was intended by the founders for a militia. That's exactly what it says.
Well, that's not what the Supreme Court said.
No, that's not what Scalia. Yeah, because it's been politicized.
Let's go by what the Supreme Court says. It's the law of the land.
I'm all for it, but I'm just telling you it was the wrong decision.
Can I just respond to what I said, which was misinterpreted? I did not say all of the students, and I weren't impugning their motives. I was talking about a select group of extremists that were there who actually did say they wanted to get rid of guns. That was there, and if you saw the signs, you would know that. Plus, the idea that you cannot challenge someone over their beliefs because they're a teenager is precisely the opposite of what education is about.
No, but when you have a picture of the young lady and you doctor the picture, have her tearing up the Constitution,
I didn't doctor any picture. I did not doctor any picture. That's what the right wing did to
So now
you're conflating me with somebody else. Great job, Juan.
Oh, stop.